have to do that.
No, well, not all of them do, some of them do.
Back up.
Say that's
They'll
not-
turn on the.
Oh.
They had an
Oh, are
accident
you?
down there in my house. That curve that, goes around, when they hit Jeanette's fence, she called me at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And said, and the sheriff's department was already out there then, in the van, didn't hurt anybody, but he tore her fence up instead of mine.
Oh, man. But, are you know that this morning?
Morning.
Pretty solemn group.
Yeah, I just texted Charlie, because they're always here before we are, but he said Charlene had a real bad head cold and a cough, and she didn't need to be out in the wind. But he might come to church if she was feeling better,
Yep. Use the wife, hey, Ellis, what's going on?
Sorry I'm late.
Hey, you ain't,
Hard to get going this morning.
yeah,
You haven't got started yet.
you ain't late, we haven't started.
I'm always late.
Uh,
And I don't know if Troy got out of the hospital.
No, I haven't, has anybody heard about Troy?
I just saw him complaining about the food, so I think things are getting better.
So he's still there?
I don't know.
Okay.
That was a couple days ago.
I think in the comments, I think he mentioned that he was heading home.
Are you talking about Troy?
Yeah.
He is at home. I texted him yesterday morning. He said
Okay.
the cold weather was sure making him cough a lot. I guess that
Yep.
affects him, but he was home.
Okay, good. I hadn't talked to Dee this week. I did call him, but, just got voicemail. I don't guess anybody's.
I talked to her, she called me Monday or Tuesday, and she said, I'm going, and I said hello, and she said, I'm going home Saturday. But I haven't talked to her, I was gone all day yesterday, so I don't know if she got to go home yesterday or not, but hopefully she did.
Well, that's wonderful. Maybe that's why she didn't answer the phone. I hope that's why.
Yeah.
Because just the week before, she still couldn't get around on the walker, so.
Yeah,
And I know they wanted her to do that before they would cut her loose.
right.
But, anyway, how's Herman?
Improving.
Really?
Yep, he's improving. So, still got coughing fits.
Yeah.
But he's at home, right?
He is at home, yeah.
Anybody else that, hey, you,
I just got something I want to share. The jail ministry people that's involved should be very proud. Deputy sheriff come by this week. They're switching over to us at the tire shop.
Yeah.
I just can use fire stuff there.
they've seen the light?
Yeah, I got to talking to him and talking about, baptism and all that in our church. He asked what church I went to, and I told him, he said, oh yeah, they were up here in the baptism.
Yeah.
Y'all need to pat yourself on the back. Word's getting around.
Yeah, we did have,
The Lord's work.
yeah, it's the Lord's working. He's not looking for, he's just looking for people who are vital.
Yeah. Yeah, that deputy sheriff was really impressed.
Well, that baptism was wonderful. It was.
Just wanted to share it.
It really was, we sure need to keep those folks on your prayer list. I can't imagine, being behind bars. I mean, I've been in the hospital a few times, and it's like, after a certain period of time, they better chain me to the bed or I'm out of there. I can't handle it. And I can't handle being in the city around a bunch of people. So I'd probably just implode or something. But one of the, I guess, you wonder about those prisoners, just like you do people who come to faith in the church. Are they really, do they mean it? And I can say that there's a few who did, for sure. you know, 4 or 5 stick out in my mind of people that you talk to, but probably one of them was that I talked to, and I can't remember his name, but you know, you could just tell that it was life-changing for him. And he told me that, you know, he said, hey, I'm looking at some really hard time. So I don't know what he did. I don't know if he's going to be in jail for 10 years the rest of his life. I don't know. But boy, you know, for somebody to come to faith in jail and be able to live that faith in jail, that's a lift. That's somebody that needs our prayers. That's somebody that's got to stay, you know, stay in their lane with the Lord for sure. Because you're not in an environment, you know, to where you might run into some decent, quote, decent people. You know, you're not in an environment that you can really thrive, or well, you can, but boy, you know, you think those people have to be sold out, the real deal. And so there are some of them in there that we had the chance to speak with that you could tell they were sold out. And so really, as far as the jail ministry goes, the biggest thing that we can do for that ministry is not only participate where we get an opportunity, we're working on getting word out to other sheriffs in Texas. There's 360 something of them, I believe, according to Adam. And so pray that we can get the message and help them in whatever way possible, get that message out to these other sheriffs. You know, one of the wonderful things about it is the fact that it gives the church a chance to be the church. You know, we've all, you know, or at least a lot of our lives are involved around, you know, coming to church on Sunday, and I'm a relatively good person, whatever that is, you know. But we're called to be the church. We're called to be salt and light all the time. And it's a wonderful opportunity for the church to be the church. And I'm encouraged and thankful that I believe that there are so many peripheral ministries going on right now in the church that we're seeing a large percentage of our church being the church. Like I say, doesn't matter too much what we do when we're here. It's what do we do the other 6 days out of the week? Who are we? And we're actually going to be in the book of James today. I'm not going to talk about the works part of it, but you know, we're supposed to be evidence of our salvation, and those types of ministries. You know, I think a lot of the people that go in there, and I include myself in that, you don't feel qualified. You don't feel like maybe you're a good enough Christian to really teach these people or mentor these people or anything else. And you know, you can kind of go down that road of, well, somebody else can do it. And that may be the case. You know, we're all supposed to be able to cast seeds, right? We're all supposed to be able to fish, right? That's all of us. But there are some who, you know, some who reap and some who sow. And we can all be sowers, but there are people who are gifted at sharing the gospel directly with one-on-one with people and all that kind of stuff. But God can use anybody in that ministry. And the cool thing is like I say, he can use flawed people, and I'm thankful for that because that's all he's got to work with. And so that is, like I say, the hottest church in Johnson County. And as a church, you know, any way that we can participate or help in that process is the least we can do. You know, so I am thankful for that. But really keep those men in your prayers, because you can imagine how in today's deal, you know, talking about loving the world and loving God, two different things. we have an opportunity as free people to do that every day. And these prisoners can too, but it's going to be much harder for them. It's going to be much harder for them. So really, best thing we can do is, or one thing we all can do, pray for those prisoners. Because we all know, you know, we say, well, we don't have anything in common with those folks. We later do. You know, you could be a prison, you could be in prison and be a believer. You could have a prison without walls, you know, for the believer that's wrapped up in anger, right? That's a prison, except it leaks to everybody you meet when you have that infection. You know, when that's a way of life. And you can learn anger and violence. You can learn that at a young age. And nobody talks about it in the church, but you can learn that. And same thing with the prison of lust. You know, when we did the Christmas Eve thing, one of the things I talked to them about was that, you know, about how Jesus said, have no gods before me. You know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. But, you know, you think about, we don't think of people, you know, the pornography is so prolific on everything. I mean, you know, you got to be careful how you type in a search for something. Or the next thing you know, you got stuff popping up on your phone all the time. I mean, it's just horrific. But you know, you think about those people who are in those kinds of prison, they're literally worshiping an idol that amounts to pixels on the screen. They're in prison too. And so, you know, there's a lot of ways that we as believers can be in prison on the outside, just like these people are in prison in a literal sense. And so we need to have a lot of compassion towards those people and genuinely put them on your list, because they've got an uphill battle. We're going to talk, with what time we have left, let's get into James 4. It was, for those that are doing the daily Bible read, I hope you all feel better about your families. You know, after looking at Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob, all the absolute dysfunction in those families. Anybody pick up on that? I mean, you know, like I said, it makes me feel a little bit better about my gene pool. Not a lot, a little. But I mean, my goodness, still in birthrights and women, you know, and I mean, all the things that we've read so far in that tells us that we're all in a battle. So let's just get into James 4, and we're just going to do these first 10 verses. But it says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and don't have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and you do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. You adulterous people. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose that it's to no purpose that the Scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? but he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, double-minded. Be wretched and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. Not sure why this hit me this week. There's, to my knowledge, not any quarrels and things like that going on in the church. I'm thankful for that. We've had very few in my time here. But there's people here. And they occasionally come up. But what causes that when it does? What causes that? He tells us right here. He says, is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? And I was thinking, well, how does that apply to me? You know? And it's simple. It directly applies to me. See, we live in the world. We have to live in the world. But when he says, you desire and you don't have, so you murder, you covet, you can't obtain, so you fight and quarrel. Now again, there's no fighting going on here in the church, but there is in a lot of churches that cease to exist because of it. And you know, every time I have seen this in a church, including this one, although extraordinarily rare, but here's the root cause right here. It's the passions of the flesh versus the purpose we have in God. It always comes back to a spiritual issue. You know, I mean, we think of it as like when there's a problem in the church, or maybe I'll call out Donald and you know, insult him or something like that. Well, that wouldn't be too good, obviously. But you know, why would I do that? You reckon it would be a spiritual problem with me, right? You reckon it would be something going on that is at war between what I want in the flesh and what God wants from me? It always comes back to that. It always comes back to somebody is spiritually out of order. Somebody is spiritually out of order. And it says you don't have because you don't ask. Well, if you have a problem in the church or at home or in business or anywhere else, how many of you live with it for a while? You take it on. You know, you don't give it to God. You know, I've done that a lot in my life. I'm still dumb enough to do it at this age if I'm not careful. You know, I don't leave it in His hands. You know, I'll mention it to Him, take it back. Mention it to Him, take it back. Mention it to Him, take it back. And He says, you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. Now, have I done this? Yes, I have. I absolutely have. I was thinking about that this morning. How many of my prayers, which are being stored, by the way, according to the book of Revelation, how many of my prayers were for things to consume on my own passions? How many of them have I ever done that? The answer is absolutely yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've absolutely done that in my lifetime. And sometimes for extended periods of time. If this situation gets resolved, I'm going to be a happy person. No. It's not the way it works. You ask and do not receive because you ask it wrongly to spend it on your passions. And, you know, you can give an analogy that's ridiculous. You know, I can say, well, I prayed for Miss Universe, I prayed for $600 million, pick a number, you know, never been up. I prayed for all these things. All these things. When I've asked wrongly in my life, not that I prayed for 600 million or Miss Universe, but I'm just saying, huh?
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I had to
You know.
take half of that.
Hey, I'm still alive. It could happen. It could still happen. So watch yourself. But no, I think you know what I mean. When you get it, your prayer life is the most intimate thing that you do. It's the most intimate thing that you do. So when you get to your prayer life and you're asking for certain things, you're burdened by certain things, you know, be careful that it's not just for your own consumption. Be careful that it's for the kingdom and not your own consumption. And what does he call people who does things like that? You adulterous people. You adulterous people. See, he's not really feeding my self-esteem there. He's saying that when I'm asking for things of the world, or when my focus is on things of the world, that I've committed spiritual adultery against the Creator. Now, I don't like to think of myself in those terms, but I have been that guy. Anytime that I knowingly sin, I am that guy. That's all of us. And he's saying, calling us adulterous people. When you may have never committed adultery in your marriage, but we don't think about it in terms of committing adultery against God. And so when we're going out there knowingly disobedient and so focused on the world that we really don't have time. You know, God, have you seen my calendar? Have you seen it? Now, how am I supposed to fit you into that? Well, it's simple. As a believer, you have Jesus as your foundation. So that's going to affect in how you treat every single aspect of your life. Every single aspect of your life. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. We probably never in the history of America, not probably, it's hands down, no question, since the COVID, the demonic lockdowns globally, the demonic stifling of the Constitution and free speech, the demonic saying, if you don't agree with us, that we should be able to mutilate your children, the demonic pride, if you don't agree, see, and to me, that's where the church, really, most churches really dropped the ball. They became a friend of the world. Oh, we must understand. Remember how the churches were putting up Black Lives Matter signs? Homegrown terrorists. See, the church can be friends of the world just by not taking a stand on who they are. And we've seen that. We've lived it. See, God doesn't expect us to be friends of the world. I had to change some insurance stuff last week, and I was stunned at the questions they were asking me about how I identified myself. There are like 13 options. Do you identify yourself as this, and this? I mean, it was so woke. which we shouldn't use the term woke, it should be reprobate. And they had a sign for, or a space for other. I put normal. Send that to them. I don't care if they kick it back or not. I mean, it's just ridiculous. See, and when the church sits there and bows down to this stuff, and they did, the overwhelming majority did. They said, oh yeah, well, you know, you can leave the strip clubs and the beer joints open and all that. You can leave them open, you know, but we'll sit at home and we'll do TV church. Remember that? See, that's friendship with the world. That's friendship with the world. And look, that's not supposed to be us. You know, in that same mess with the insurance, you know, how would you describe yourself? And I said, look, all this stuff, and this was another portion of the application. And I said, just put down white Christian nationalist. That's what you want to call me anyway. That's who I am. You know? In other words, when we sit there and we agree with a woke world, we are being friends with the world. You know? Like I said back during all that mess, silence is a position. If we don't have the courage to be who we say we are out in the world, we're not really being salt or light, are we? We're agreeing with the world. And I'm not talking about coming up and picking a fight with somebody, but I'm just saying we need to be who we say we are. And I'm not a friend of the world. I don't want to be a friend of the world. Why? Because that's enmity with God. That makes me an enemy of God. See, we're not behind bars, but yet the church has struggled with standing on their foundation. They've struggled with it. Anytime somebody says, well, you can't mention religion, like in a business meeting. You can't mention your faith in a business meeting. Oh, who says? Who says I can't? Huh? You know? Come on in. I mean, you know, I don't know what the week holds yet. But supposedly, I'm supposed to meet with a guy that's built a company that he inherited from his dad. $100 million a year. And he's about to get wrecked. Bank has called his line of credit. Yeah. And this venture fund group that I've been working with that wants me to fix this company. I said, well, here's how I started managing my own practice. The companies that I work in on a daily or on a regular basis, I don't hide my faith. And typically I have to go in there and fix spiritual issues first. If they say they're a believer, all right, I got you. Let's be who we say we are. First thing we're going to have to do before the bank calls your $9 million you got on a line of credit that you can't pay. First thing we're going to do is pray about it. Ooh, boy, that's not always popular. That's the only way I know how to start this stuff. I don't want them to think that I'm a friend of the world. I don't want to separate my faith from my business. I need my faith to do my business. These are not great situations to walk into. 2,000 people might lose a job. Just like that. You know the biggest challenge I face in doing those deals? Lack of humility. Lack of humility. James tells us here, how do we not be a friend of the world? Humble yourselves before the mighty hand of God. It's a huge struggle in the business world, but it's a huge struggle within the church. A lack of of humility. Now, either somebody has that as a character trait, or they've got enforced humility. I've had that happen to me from God. That's a terrible place to be. I do not want to be humbled again by God in my lifetime. I want to come to Him humbly. See, you can't fix anything in the business world, and certainly can't fix anything in our spiritual lives without that humility. You know, we come to church, you know, on the relative scale, we may be good people. But he says, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose it's no purpose that the Scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? See, if I let anger, lust, jealousy, or anything get in my life, that's a spiritual decision. It affects those around me spiritually. I think I said last week, as a hypothetical, because she doesn't do as much hard time as I give her. But if I was to wake up and Sherry just started chewing me out, right? And let's say that I held my tongue, you know, as I always do because I'm perfect. If I held my tongue and I walk out the door, go on my morning walk, my dogs are going to look at me and they're going to back up. I've not said a word. They just know. They have that instinct to know. They don't read, they read people. They don't know languages. But they can tell what kind of energy, what your spirit is doing. And they back away from me like, what's wrong with this yet? They would know something is wrong even though I never said a word. And see, when we do things like lash out at people in anger, guess what? What's that going to filter out to spiritually to the next person that you vented on? You think they're going to be all, oh, hey. Let's say that Sherry comes out and drops a bomb on me, and then I get on the phone with a client, and then I drop a bomb on them. And guess what? They go home and drop a bomb on me. The spiritual life. It's not something we can see, but we know. God is jealous over our spiritual condition. He's jealous. He wants us to get back in the palace. We, as being a member of the world, we want to jump into the outhouse head first. But he gives more grace. Therefore, it says God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. What's the solution to not